Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer 55551. Excuse me, and I apologize if I'm coughing and everything like that. Although I am feeling better than what I was from last week, I still have lingering parts of the cold, and that's me kind of coughing and everything like that. So I apologize if that is, I know it might sound rude to some folks out there, but I'm still just fighting off the cold and everything like that. So I apologize in advance. But anyway, we got 5 stories to cover. Normally I would do 4, but this one kind of broke this week that's worth taking a look at. And that is analysts weighing in on basically the Switch price and so forth. We also are going to be talking about the possibility that Ubisoft could be selling some of their IPs, and some decision that seems to not sit well with the shareholders and everything like that. Square Enix talks about Chrono Trigger, since this is one of the anniversaries for it though. We also talk about basically the next Xbox that we've been hearing, and of course the new handheld or something, or at least what kind of direction Microsoft is going in regards to the handheld. And excuse me, and a new filing discovers some things about the Switch 2 that I'm not really shocked to some degree, but it is nice that it is certainly is there and all. And if you're interested in where I got the source of this information, links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube and all. But before we get started, I like to do what I like to call the quick my 2 cents. Stories that kind of caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into a whole huge detail and everything like that. The first one has to do with Lego releasing, or basically setting to release, a new Mario Lego set, but this one will be based off of Mario Kart. Basically, it's a excuse me, a giant Lego set piece with basically, just a excuse me, a regular Mario Kart and everything like that though. It looks impressive and everything like that, and I'm sure Lego fans or Mario fans might appreciate it to a certain degree. We also learned that Aulx Studios, Chimera, who basically is working on the sequel to Okami, has talked about saying that they're not going to focus on sequels or anything like that. That they may, develop new games or IPs, which is certainly nice, indeed. Or it's possible they could maybe take a look at some of Capcom's other IPs and maybe take a shot at it. So there's always that possibility as well, but we'll have to wait and see what exactly comes out from them though. Right now we're still waiting to see more info on the Okami sequel and all. We also learned that the Death Stranding 2 is set for June 26th this year. I'm sure some folks who may enjoy the first one are looking forward to this one though. No word on it coming to other systems like the Xbox Series X and S, but since Kojima Productions got back the rights to the game from Sony and everything like that, I would say there is a very good chance, excuse me, a very good chance we could see this game make its way to the Xbox Series X and X. Maybe Switch 2, that's always a possibility. I can't say 100% for certain that's going to be the case, but that is always a possibility indeed. But for right now, for PS5 owners, it's set for June 26th. We also learned that Forza Horizon 5 for the PS5, those who are looking forward to get the game, unfortunately it seems that if you want to play that game, you will require to have a Microsoft account in order to play that game. And it seems this also, I think, might be for the physical version, all which, if true, I'm not sure. I don't really agree with this approach to some extent. I mean, we already saw how this played out when Sony told PC users, if you want to play your game, you had to have a PlayStation account. That didn't set well, especially with the whole controversy surrounding with Helldivers 2. That ultimately led to a major backlash and forcing them to reverse course to a certain extent. It will be very interesting to see if we see that kind of situation with when Forza Horizon 5 comes to the PS5 and everything, whether that leads to any kind of backlash or not. We also learned that Hideki Kamiya talked about why he left Platinum and everything like that. It's an interesting read though. It does seem to indicate what may suspected, that a lot of it was he didn't like the direction excuse me, Platinum was going and everything. So it's an interesting read, nevertheless. We also learned that apparently Capcom is going through a golden age, as basically the success of the Resident Evil and Monster Hunter games, the recent games that came out, have seemed to be doing very well for Capcom, which is certainly good. I hope this opens the door to bringing in either some new IPs like Goddess of the Path or reinventing some old IPs and all. As far as the RE engine, I will say I kind of feel like it's had some ups and downs. It certainly has done very well, but there have been some questionable decisions on using the RE engine, particularly with Dragon Dogma 2 on the open world side, not to mention their decision to focus on ray tracing, which I'm not sure that sat well with everybody out there. But in either case, Capcom certainly is in a good position. We also learned that basically the developers of the upcoming No Rest for the Wicked is moving forward to publishing a game without Take-Two. This has to do with Take-Two selling off their studio Private Division, which was at one point supposed to focus on like original IPs and everything like that, but it seems that the Ori developers have gotten the rights to those games, so it does seem to indicate that they will finish the game, and who knows, maybe they'll publish it or find a new publisher or something like that. We also learned that the Lego company is starting to bring its games in-house, though. This is completely different than in the past, where they had other developers work on the games, most notably Traveling Tales, which has done several Lego games in the past. The latest one, the Skywalker Saga, supposedly did very well indeed and all, but it'll be very interesting to see what this means going forward for Legos, if they're going to be developing Lego games going forward in-house, or whether they'll still continue, licensing it out to other companies, like whether it was Traveling Tales to basically Take-Two Interactive with Lego Racer and all. Excuse me. And last but not least, we are learning that supposedly the remake of Elder Scrolls Oblivion could be releasing sooner than we thought. There have been reports about this game in development for quite some time, including it running on Unreal Engine 5. We'll have to wait and see if this game does exist or not, though. It'll be very interesting if it does come out. What's also going to be interesting if this does make its way over to the Switch 2 or not. There are some claiming that it might show up during the Switch 2 presentation, but that remains to be seen at this time, and time will ultimately tell if that does happen or not, though. And in the movie and TV show part of the Quick My 2 Cent, we learned that basically we saw 2 new trailers. One is for the second season of The Last of Us. I'm looking forward to that one. I'm very curious to see how this is going to pan out, considering that Season 2 will be based off the second game, and supposedly they're going to stretch that out to multiple seasons, so that's going to be very interesting indeed. And given the fact that we've learned that their odds are small for a Last of Us Part 3, I do wonder if they're going to take the approach like what we saw with True Blood, where basically after they covered all the books, they went their own different direction. So there's always that possibility, but time will ultimately tell. We also saw a new trailer for the upcoming Devil May Cry for Netflix, though. I mean, based on what I've seen so far, it looks promising, but I'm not 100% if this will do well or not. I will say, in terms of video game adaptation, Netflix has sort of a hit and miss. I mean, there have been some mixed bags, such as Dragon Dogma to Resident Evil and all, but there have been some success courtesy of Castlevania, Witcher, Castlevania, Witcher, Cyberpunk, Edge Runner. Tomb Raider wasn't that bad or anything like that. Arcane, I've heard, has done well, and so has Dota. So it's possible this one could be a success or not, but we'll have to wait and see once the episodes start rolling out. I believe we'll be out in April. I think April 2nd, but I'm not 100% sure, but hopefully we'll hear more about it all. And last but not least, though, we've also learned that supposedly a former ex-Nintendo employee has talked about how Nintendo has always said no to a Zelda movie pitch and everything like that, though. And I think some of that could have been after how the Super Mario Brothers movie, the 1993 one, not the 2023 one, though, was panned out, how that one didn't do as well as they had hoped for and everything like that, though. Now, obviously, we are getting a live-action Zelda movie. It's being handled by Sony. I believe Wes Bells is the one that is handling that, though. I think he handled last year's Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which I enjoyed a lot, though. So it's possible this one could do well, but time will ultimately tell. We have seen video game movies and TV shows can be a hit and miss. We certainly have seen some good ones, and the quality certainly has gotten better. But there's no denying that we've also seen some duds in the past, though. I mean, for every Sonic the Hedgehog 3 or Super Mario Brothers movie, there's also a Borderlands, though, and who knows how the Minecraft one's going to be. I'm not sure about that one, but we'll have to wait and see. So we'll see how the Zelda movie does when basically eventually that comes out and all. Okay, with the Quick My 2 Cent part now done, along with the movie and TV show part, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with some filings from in the FCC or FTC in regards of the Switch 2 and all. Now, a lot of us are patiently waiting for basically April 2nd for Nintendo to finally spell out more information about the Switch 2. Ever since, ever since that revealed back in January of this year. And since then, we've gotten some snippets here and there. Some of it seem accurate. Some of it might come off as being a bit far-fetched, depending on how you want to look at it, though. Well, recently, The Verge got its hands on, or at least has looked at basically what are looking at FCC filings that Nintendo may have put out. And I think, assuming these FCC filings are accurate, and I'm more inclined to believe they most likely will, it does indicate one feature returning and possibly an improvement in another area for the upcoming Switch 2. From an article from The Verge, it reads, and I quote, filings at the Federal Communication Commission, FCC, okay, so it's the FCC, reveals the console will support NFC. They are even specific that the RFID feature will be located in the right Joy-Con, just like it was in the original Switch. The Nintendo Switch 2 is apparently designed the BEE001. The company's ratio equipment test failings reveal where BEE is. Nintendo designed the Switch 2 family with products with 001, the main console, 14 on the right Joy-Con, and 12 on the left one. So the fact that this is going to have, at least according to this filing, NFCs, which means amiibos are returning, isn't really hugely shocking indeed, assuming this is accurate though. But whether that means we could see a comeback with amiibos or not, that remains to be seen. We've seen Nintendo kind of move away from amiibos to a little bit, but who knows? They might make a comeback in Switch 2 in some degree, in some form and everything like that. It also points out that the filing shows, in terms of Wi-Fi, it will support Wi-Fi 6, 802.11ax network with up to 800 MHz of bandwidth, up from the Wi-Fi 5 on the original Switch. However, this doesn't seem to have Wi-Fi 7 or Wi-Fi 6E, and it's only crossed the FCC with tests for 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz network, not the faster, shorter 6 gigahertz band. So in a way, assuming this is correct though, it's an improvement, but not 100% correct though. I still think a lot of this will depend on where you are in terms of the network and everything like that. But still, I mean, these filings are very interesting. Nevertheless, the NFC thing, I'm not shocking though. That one doesn't surprise me. Like I said before, it means obviously amiibo functionality is going to continue with the Switch 2. However, there's no guarantee that means that there more amiibos are on the way. And of course, the improved Wi-Fi, which certainly sounds great, and I think I'm glad that they made some improvements to it, though, based on these FCC filings. But it doesn't seem like it's going to be aiming for some of the higher, Wi-Fi and everything like that. I mean, again, we'll have to wait until April 2nd to come out. Maybe we'll get more concrete information once we know for certain. But overall, these are interesting filings for Nintendo that some folks found on the FCC. Again, these filings, sometimes they see the light of day, sometimes they don't. I'm leaning more likely these are probably going to see the light of day. So some of this I will say isn't surprising. And it is nice we're seeing somewhat of an upgrade with the Switch 2 with the Wi-Fi though, although it may not be what some folks may have hoped for or anything like that. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2, and this one has to do with Xbox's next system, including the handheld part of it, though. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my 2 cent video, and for this one, we're going to be talking about Xbox's next system. Now, Microsoft is sort of in an odd position, to be exact, though. While they are certainly have bought up a lot of studios and everything like that, their hardware has been not, let's just say, not in the, well, best of positions and everything like that. There have been some criticisms of sorry about that cough and everything, like coughing and all. But anyway, there have been some questions about Microsoft's position in terms of, focusing, going third party but still releasing the Xbox system and all. It's been an odd strategy and one that some folks have questioned, though, but it seems they're continuing to double down nevertheless. But as far as their next system, that has sort of been in the flux, and people have been wondering what that might be. To be exact, though, there have been the talks about the possibility of a handheld and everything like that, to supposedly the next generational leap and everything. And now this report from Windows Central, if accurate, seems to indicate and give us an idea of the direction Microsoft will be going, not only with their next console, but also basically the handheld part, to be exact, though. Anyway, here's what the article does talk about, though. Let me see if I can find it, however. First off, Microsoft is working with PC Gaming OME on a Xbox-branded gaming handheld, surprisingly flat for 2025 if plans are met. Codename KENAN. This gaming handheld will look unmistakably Xbox, we're told, complete with an official Xbox guide button and Xbox design sensibility. Given that this is a partner device similar to the Levo Steam OS partnership with Valve, I expect this handheld to be more PC oriented. Kana is almost definitely running full Windows, putting the Microsoft Store and PC Game Pass front and center, along with the ability to install things like Steam. This device will likely serve, at least in part, as a research experience for Microsoft. I expect the handheld will test the new Windows 11 device awareness capability while reducing third-party OME bloatware that are typical devices like the Levon Legion Go and the ROG Ally. I expect Microsoft will leverage the widget on the Xbox Game Bar on PC for controlling things like TDP advanced speed, while hopefully having more streamlined OS experience for controller use. Of course, existing PC games OEM will benefit from these efforts as well, but the research will also help Microsoft with future plans. Because indeed, our sources also indicate that Microsoft's eternal successor to the Xbox Series X and S platform has been fully greenlit all the way up to CEO Satya Nadella. For now, I understand Microsoft's next-gen hardware plans, including a premium successor to the powerful Xbox Series X, along with its own Xbox gaming handheld, and several new control options. Tentatively, these new console devices are slashed for 2027, basically 2 years from now, though. Continuing on, it seems that the next-gen Xbox console will be closer to Windows than ever before, reducing the amount of work developers have to commit to when porting from PC. I understand that they will continue to support backwards compatibility with legacy Xbox games too. However, Xbox President Sarah Bond previously announced a project team specifically designed to promote backwards and forward capability for existing Xbox games. To that end, Xbox-led Phil Spencer have teased in previous interviews a desire to support third-party storefronts on Xbox hardware, including platforms like the Epic Game Store, GOG, ITCH.io, and even Steam itself. There's ever reason to presume AI will have a role to play in next gen, as well as Xbox cloud capability. Microsoft's new controller will have direct-to-cloud connectivity, for what I've been told, and more integrated to allow players to switch them between different devices. Of course, there are plenty of logistical issues to overcome with regard to some of these plans. Always note plans might change between now and 2027. Consider this a preview of what could come to pass. Let's wait for the official reveal from Microsoft itself, though. It also points out that, quote, thanks to the Xbox Series S, Microsoft already has a large amount of games that could be more easily ported to a handheld type system too. The strong possibility that these future systems were made backwards compatibility ensures that those of us who are digitally locked to the Xbox ecosystem will have a place to upgrade in the future. Future Xbox games will likely be Windows oriented, hopefully with Xbox Play Anywhere as a default licensing model. So this is kind of interesting, assuming this whole report is accurate. The device, the handheld part, it seems to be there's two things coming out of it. It does seem to indicate that one, Microsoft is aiming to do some of these licensed handheld, like these PC gaming type handhelds that we've seen, ranging from the ROG Ally to the Steam Deck. So it does seem to indicate that they're aiming for that. And then, of course, doing a dedicated handheld and everything like that. It's going to be very interesting to see how that dedicated handheld is going to play and everything. And it will be very interesting to see if it's going to be all digital, or is it going to be something like we hook up the the Seagate cards that we have for the Xbox Series X and S. Could those be hooked up into this dedicated handheld, assuming when we eventually see it and everything like that? As far as the 2027 release date, again, that is a possibility, but again, like I said, things could change at all. As far as the next generation console goes, that too is also going to be kind of interesting to see how that plays out, though. The fact that they're aiming for something, that's closer to Windows or PC isn't really shocking indeed, considering that we have seen consoles this generation. Some of it has leaned a little bit closer to the PC. Not 100% full on like it's exactly like the PC. Remember, I always view, as much as I enjoy consoles, I always view consoles as a closed box compared to a PC, which is more of an open box and everything like that. I'm not 100% sure it's going to be 100% like the PC. It's possible we could see some changes, though. I mean, the Switch uses NVIDIA's Tegra X1. There are rumors that will use the Tegra 239. Microsoft leaning more closer to PC isn't really surprising. What's more surprising is to see the fact that they could add stuff like the Epic Game Store, GOG, and Steam, though. That's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out in their next generation of consoles, whether it's the regular console to even the handheld itself. So this is an interesting strategy Microsoft might take, though. But again, a lot of things could happen between now and 2027, supposedly when this stuff will come out, though. And time will ultimately tell how that all plays out, though, especially considering we've seen Microsoft go all in on third party. It will also remain to be seen if this could have an impact on the sales of those systems, indeed and all. Some people believe it's already had with the Xbox Series X and S. Others have a different perspective on this, though. So I will say overall, it's an interesting strategy. Obviously, we have to hear from Microsoft itself, but it's very interesting to see them take this approach. And I'm curious to see how this all plays out, assuming what this article from Windows Central is saying is 100% accurate and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 3. And this one has to do with Chrono Trigger's 30th anniversary. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our part 3 of my 2 cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Chrono Trigger, as this week turned out to be the 30th anniversary for this game. Now, 30 years ago, this game was released back in 1995 for the Super Nintendo, and since then, we've seen different ports of the game make their way over, ranging from I believe, to the PlayStation, with I think with an animated cutscene and all, to the Nintendo DS as well. The game still remains a classic among RPG fans, though, and the art style was developed by the same person who unfortunately passed away, I believe, last year. The one who did, ranging from Sandland to the ever popular Dragon Ball series and all. So it's certainly interesting to see that this series has gained a following over the years, and there's always been calls to see this game, be ported over to current generations. I've heard some people would like to see this on Nintendo Switch's online service, which, excuse me, I wouldn't be against or anything like that. Well, now Square Enix is not only acknowledging Chrono Triggers and all, but they are talking about the possibility of various projects and everything. In an article from Nintendo Life, it reads, quote, a lot of classic video games are coming up on their major milestone anniversaries, and one of them happens to be Square Enix's legendary 1995 RPG Chrono Triggers. Today actually happens to be the game's 30th anniversary since its original release on the Super Famicom, or SNES, release, and to mark this special occasion, Square Enix has announced it's planning various projects over the next year which will apparently go beyond the world of video games. This comes from a translation via the official company and game social media account. Here's it in full. Quote, today marks the 30th anniversary of the release of Chrono Trigger in 1995. Excuse me. This timeless masterpiece that translated generation and still talked about today was born from the dreams of Yuichiro, if I'm saying this name correctly, of Dragon Quest, and Arcane Tomiyama, again I apologize I'm not saying that name correctly, of Dragon Ball, and the creator of Final Fantasy. As we mark the 30th anniversary, we will be launching various projects that go beyond the world of games over the next year to express our gratitude to everyone who played Chrono Trigger so far. The latest information will be posted on Square Enix official X and Chrono Trigger PR, so please look forward to it. Now, what these various projects could mean a lot of things. Some might point out that they might do an anime or a movie. I mean, that's always a possibility. Some of it could be just, merchandise with the Chrono Trigger characters on it. So there's that too. But I personally, and this is just my view on it, I would like for them to not only port the game over to basically today's platforms, including the Nintendo Switch and maybe Switch 2, but I would like to see them take the HD 2D route, to be exact though. We saw this recently with Dragon Quest 3, that got the HD 2D route, and that apparently sold very well for Square Enix, and I think a game like Chrono Trigger should absolutely go down that route. At least that's how I'm seeing it though. I know some people might be tired of the HD 2D route, but I think it still has potential and still works perfectly fine. I think it certainly would be nice to see them, continue with that, and I think Chrono Trigger would be an absolute fit for that type of game or everything like that. But again, we'll have to wait and see what Square Enix is going to announce about it though. Obviously, like they said, there are different various projects beyond gaming, so again, like I said, it could be Merc, it could be, in media like a TV show or an anime or a movie, but excuse me, we'll have to wait and see. So overall, great that basically Square Enix is still acknowledging Chrono Trigger. Nice that they're going to go beyond games and everything like that. But if you're asking my honest opinion, I would like to see this game, like I said earlier, I would like to see this get an HD 2D remake, or a remake closer to what we saw with Star Ocean, the second Star, that was released on multiple platforms and everything like that. That was sort of like an updated version. So maybe we'll see that with, Chrono Trigger and all. Supposedly they'll make something announcement like next year or something. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 4, and this one has to do with Ubisoft and a report that supposedly other companies might be acquiring their IPs or something like that. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 4 of my 2 cent video, and for this one we're going to be taking a look at Ubisoft, which, well, let's just say the company has not been in the best position lately though. As I've said before in the past, I might have said this before in the past, a lot of this came down to a lot of the decisions Ubisoft has made and hasn't really, well, let's just say hasn't sat well with a lot of gamers, ranging from pushing their luck with DRM to having every game, be open world, which, again, I got nothing wrong with open world type games. It's just that not every single franchise or every game has to be open world and all, to, the whole situation we saw with Beyond Good and Evil 2, which according to Ubisoft still exists and everything like that. So it's just been bad for them though. And then of course there was Star Wars Outlaw that did not meet expectations, to Assassin's Creed Shadow being delayed and everything. So not necessarily great though. And we have seen over the years that Ubisoft has been, or at least over a couple months, Ubisoft has been trying to reverse these kinds of situations though. Some of the ideas have ranged from a buyout from Tencent, others have pointed towards most likely maybe putting their IPs out there for other publishers or developers to pick up. Well, one disgruntled employee has come out and sort of spilled the beans on some of the stuff that seem to indicate that it's possible that companies like Microsoft or EA or something like that could actually own maybe or develop, an future Assassin's Creed game or something like that. In an article from Pure Xbox, it says, quote, "In recent months, we've seen that Ubisoft is still seeking investment from somewhere as it wrangles with game delays and general management difficulty. And a new bit of information has come to light today that suggests Microsoft held discussions with companies over the future of its gaming IP. In an article by IGN, one disgruntled Ubisoft shareholder has spilled some information about what's going over there right now. Its CEO of AJ Investments, the shareholder in question, claimed that Assassin's Creed makers failed to disclose discussions between Microsoft, EA, and others that are interested in acquiring IPs from Ubisoft. This investor apparently mentioned that these discussions were shared in a restricted article published by business investment investment platform Merger Market, and that neither Ubisoft investors nor the public were informed of them by the French game maker. In defense, Ubisoft has shared a statement with IGN as part of today's article, a statement that's filled with plenty of business something this or that, the sort of language that makes your brain melt when reading it. Anyway, from what we can praise, Ubisoft is basically saying that exploring different options for the future of its IPs, as well as finding out if any of those options turn into actual deals, according to what this is what Ubisoft had to say. As we mentioned during our third quarter sales, the review of various transformation, strategic, and capitalistic option is ongoing. The board has established an ad hoc independent committee to oversee this formal and competitive process so as to extend the best value from Ubisoft's assets and franchise for all stakeholders. Ubisoft will form the market in accordance with applicated regulations if and once a transaction materializes. Unfortunately, there is no hint as to which IP Microsoft or EA, for that matter, is interested in acquiring from the company. But it's safe to say that Ubisoft's asking price would probably be factor heavy. The team has a lot of this game series under its belts. Game series that likes of Xbox, EA will be glad to scoop up at the right price. So I will say that it wouldn't surprise me if one of the options Ubisoft takes is basically they sell their IPs to other, developers or anything like that. We've seen that before in the past. Whether anybody's willing to pick them up remains to be seen, and some of it will be interesting to see how much these developers are willing to purchase, though. As far as whether Microsoft would buy any of these IPs or anything, I wouldn't rule it out, though. But there are some criticism towards Microsoft in terms of they own a lot of IPs, they're sitting on IPs and that remain dormant though. Rare is a very good example of this with games like Banjo-Kazooie as one example. So I think for some it would be a mixed bag if Microsoft were to own any of these IPs or anything like that. And obviously I don't know whether this disgruntled investor, if this was widespread or just this one person to be exact. But in either case, though, it seems pretty clear Ubisoft is exploring as many options as possible to try to get themselves out of a situation, though. Although I would say if Assassin's Creed Shadow does not perform well or anything like that, and I wouldn't be shocked if that happens, though. I hope it doesn't, but I wouldn't be surprised if it does. It wouldn't be surprised to me if Ubisoft is broken into pieces or something, or breaking off and sold or something to be like that. I mean, it's possible there could be a situation with Tencent. They could come in and buy Ubisoft. There's always that possibility. But looking at Ubisoft, they dug themselves into this situation. They made some pretty bad decisions that put them in this situation that they're in. And a lot of this falls on the higher up in management. They help create the kind of situation that they are right now. Whether or not they'll recover from this, that remains to be seen. So overall, I wouldn't be shocked if any of this happens. We don't know if it will, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ubisoft decides to sell off some of their IPs to other publishers and other developers out there. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to our fifth and final part, and this one has to do with the report of basically Switch, the possibility of what Switch 2 might cost and everything. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fifth and final part of our Might You Said video, and this one has to do with another piece about the Nintendo Switch 2. This one has to do with the price, and of course, whether there will have enough shipment available, to be exact. Now, the price point has sort of been a mystery for the Switch 2 and all. There have been many people who were wondering how much it would cost. Some believe that it would cost more than, say, what the original Switch back in 2017, which was supposedly at $300 though. And others were hoping for something like either $350. Others were also hoping that it would be under the price point we've seen with the Xbox Series X and the PS5, which sits at like $500 and all. But with several uncertainties in the market, including tariffs as one example, and to whether or not Nintendo has enough supplies for the system, though, many wondering whether some of these reports that are coming out are true or not. And if they are true, some of them may not be as bad as we thought it would be, but there are certainly a lot of factors that would have to come into play. First one has to do with the shipment, though. Now, anybody who remember during when the PS5 and the Xbox Series X came out, one of the issues was supply and demand, and there were people having a hard time finding the system, though. Obviously, COVID didn't help the situation, but obviously we also had the whole scalper situation where a lot of scalpers were gabbing these systems up and flipping them and selling them at outrageous prices on eBay. Well, this supposedly report from like a Reddit post, assuming this is correct, and I would err on the side of caution of this, but it's possible that Nintendo may be preparing to have enough systems ready to go when the system finally launches, though. In regards of that, this is what I have to say. This is from a Family Board member, LIC, and shared on Game and Leak and Rumors Reddit, though. According to the article from Nintendo Life, it says, quote, "The post claimed to have shipment data from Vietnam manufacturer HVBG, a company apparently contracted by Nintendo, which reported 383,000 completed Nintendo Switch 2 units were shipped to the North America between the 17th and 22nd of January 2025. The company is also alleged to ship a further 41,598 Switch 2 charger grips for North America in the same time period. 383,000 units is a nice start for the region, though LIC claims that the manufacturer has more up its sleeve, with HVBG believed to be in possession of at least 1.7 million per system units like the Switch 2 screen is. If these numbers are to believe, a early summer launch isn't completely off the cards for the Switch 2. Nintendo likely want to beef up its pre-launch units a little bit before the big day rolls around. Excuse me. But that certainly sounds like it could be a possibility. So that would be interesting if that number is true and all. And I do wonder if that's going to be enough to deal with any kind of supply and demand for North America and all. So hopefully this is enough to deal with the scalper situation. Although I will admit I'm not holding my breath on this, because I'm sure scalpers are going to find a way to try to get their hands on the system one way or another. And we've seen in the past how sometimes these scalpers or sometimes these leakers find a way to get their hands on the system. So don't be surprised if you see something leak online, but we'll see if Nintendo can able to nail this one down. Meanwhile, a report from Bloomberg seems to are giving off their prediction of how much the system is going to cost. And one of the numbers that seems to be tossed around is the possibility it could cost $400 US. From an article from My Nintendo, it reads, some analysts at Bloomberg, for example, have offered their insight on the matter. What makes it unique, however, is they regularly communicate with Nintendo and their partners. According to the analysis, they expect the Switch 2 will be more expensive than its predecessor, with it potentially being at $400 or more. In fact, Tokyo security analysts said that I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo goes ahead with a $499, $500 to be exact, though that depends on factors such as U.S. tariffs and its trade wars with various countries, as well as hardware costs. The analysts are divided in that regard, though. Although some have pointed out that since the Switch is being manufactured in Vietnam, that may not be a factor. So remains to be seen if that is the case or not. Anyway, continuing on, it's not concerning for Nintendo though. The analysts also expect that the Switch 2 will release very soon in June. As for games, the Tokyo-based industry watcher Segra Togo, if I'm saying that correctly, expect a great software lineup in year one from a new Mario Kart and 3D Mario after 8 years to Pokemon Legends, ZA, and Metroid Prime 4. Mario Kart, I think it's a given. Most likely, we saw that basically in the trailer for the Switch 2. I could see a new 3D Mario happening. I don't know if it will happen this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo has a 3D Mario game in development for the Switch 2. Whether they show it off or not, that remains to be seen. Metroid Prime 4, I believe is going to be a cross-gen title. At least in my view, I think it's going to be cross-gen. Excuse me. There will also be third-party support from day one, most probably including blockbusters like Call of Duty, so there should be a lot of games on the way too. We have heard reports of how third parties kind of missed the boat when the original Switch came out. It seems that it's possible that a lot of them will probably don't want to make that same mistake again. Whether we can see these titles day one or not, that also remains to be seen though. The analysts also agree that despite the high price, the console will still get off to a great start. Market Capitalist Analysis, if I'm saying the name correctly, expect the sales of 20 million units sold during its first year availability, for example. Meanwhile, an expert from Stanford B. Bernstein expects that Nintendo will have 6 million to 8 million Switch units available at launch. If so, that will make it its biggest console launch ever. So, again, some of these analysts could be right or wrong or anything like that, so we'll have to see how that plays out. The $400 price tag, I mean, I kind of expect that this was probably going to be a bit more expensive though, but I would not be happy if they try to aim for $500. I'm not sure how well that is going to sell and everything like that. Obviously, the tariffs are going to be the wild card, and it will be very interesting to see whether or not this will have any kind of impact on the Switch. Switch 2 and all, but as I mentioned before, some have pointed out that since the system is manufactured in Vietnam, it may not have an impact, so we'll have to wait and see. Again, a lot of these analysts could be off, a lot of them could be right, to be exact, so time will ultimately tell on April 2nd. If they are correct in saying that the system will be out by June, hopefully that'll give a lot of consumers like us enough time to pre-order it, possibly take a layaway approach depending on where it is available for something like that, to be able to pre-order the system real soon, and hopefully Nintendo has enough to deal with the scalper situation. Again, like I said, I'm not holding my breath on that, but time will tell if that is the case. So overall, very interesting from the analysis. Some of it I think is believable. Some of it I'm not 100% sure about. The price point, I would say, I think 400,000 seems right. I'd rather it be lower, but I'm willing to live with $400 if they could aim for that price point and everything like that. But as I said, we'll have to wait until April 2nd. That's not far behind though. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about this new FCC filing about the Switch 2? Do any of these features interest you in any way? Are you pleased to see that it sounds like amiibos are going to be used for Switch 2 to some capacity, to some form of capacity, or the fact that we'll have maybe an improved Wi-Fi setting for the Switch 2 and all? What are your thoughts about Microsoft's next system in terms of their new console to the new handheld? Do you agree with this approach to the handheld in terms of licensing out to possibly, their own dedicated native handheld? And what about the console part though? Do you like the idea of it being more closer to PC, maybe putting stuff like GOG or Epic Game Store or Steam in the Xbox's next system? What are your thoughts about the 30th anniversary for Chrono Trigger? Are you looking forward to seeing Square Enix basically do various projects outside of video games with Chrono Trigger? Or do you think they should do something like, say, a HD 2D remaster of of Chrono Trigger in general? What are your thoughts about the idea of Ubisoft selling off maybe some of their IPs to other companies? Do you think this is a smart move for Ubisoft in any way? Do you think it's a dumb move? Do you think this will, if they were to go through with this approach, do you think this could help Ubisoft, or do you think this would hinder Ubisoft? And what are your thoughts about the Switch pricing and the shipment though? Do you think a little over 300,000 systems available will be enough for the North American release though? Do you think $400, if that is the actual price, do you think that is a fair price for the Switch 2, or do you think it should be lower or higher in any way? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal me, Patreon, or Steam Labs. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you watch this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!